Small, nimble, 6-cylinder and rear-wheel drive. That's the recipe that brought BMW where it is today. It doesn't get any more BMW than that. Okay, fine, maybe a manual gearbox, but we let that slide for now. It is the OG glazed donut version of the BMW lineup, a staple and a classic that has to be there regardless of what other donuts are available. And I'm not going to act like this is something new or something that you guys have never seen before. If you are even remotely a car guy, you've heard of the M2 Competition. It is special. It's the baby in BMW's lineup, the small rocket ship from BMW. This model of 2 Series and M2 actually is the last, basically, because just after this, the M2 CS is pretty much almost here already. And after the M2 CS, this generation of M2 and 2 Series are over. A bit sad, I know. We'll see what the replacement will hold in the not too far future. The M2 Comp has the same engine as the F80 BMW M3 and M4, the twin-turbo inline-6 S55 engine, although it's slightly detuned from 317 kilowatt, that's 425 bhp in the standard M3 and M4, to 302 kilowatt, that's 404 bhp in the M2 Comp. The torque's the same though at 550 newtons. It's a big step up from the normal M2 that had the single turbo N55 motor like in my M135i. Nice engine, but definitely nowhere near as vicious as the S55. Sounded a little bit better though, in my opinion. Now I'm not going to pretend like this car is better than an M3 or an M4 because I've driven both pretty much, even the competition models, and they're both good. They're both great actually in their own ways. But what sets the M2 apart for me at least is that it's the baby. It's very small. That's not saying that the M3 or the M4 is big. They're small also. But the M2, it's the firecracker of the range. It's the small baby. It feels more nimble, more agile, and just a little angrier, if you get me. And we're saying it feels more agile and more nimble. That's not really due to, weight saving, because when it comes down to it, it's pretty much 10 kgs lighter than the M3 and the M4. The reason that it feels more nimble and more agile, it's a smaller car. It's got a shorter wheelbase. So it's a little bit shorter than the M3 and the M4, and that's a good thing. If you ask me, it will definitely be more agile on the track as well. The interior does feel a little bit on the notch down when compared to the M3. It is a little bit smaller and some of the materials aren't exactly as premium, but I'm just nitpicking now, to be honest. I love the updated digital cluster and finally the tasty M3 and M4 seats. That is a humongous step up from the old M2 seats. These feel much more supportive, comfortable, and just look way, way better. I'm a huge fan of the M steering wheel in this generation of BMW. It isn't too big or too small, and most importantly, it's not overly fancy or full of buttons. It's simplistic, and I love that. The space in the rear is a little bit small as you'd expect from a 2 Series, but it's not as bad as you'd think. I actually fit quite comfortably for a 2 Series. The boot too is reasonably big for a car of this size. It may not be as practical as an M3 or an M4, but it's definitely not a drawback. The steering on the M2 is nice and direct and sharp also. You get different modes that you can put it in, like Comfort, Sport and Sport Plus, that make it a bit more weighty, but I feel it provides pretty good feedback. But besides that, you know where the car is going. It gives you so much of feedback besides from the steering wheel. You can feel it from the bottom of your seat. You feel the feedback. You know what the car is doing and what it wants to do. It completes you. It's a complete package. The gearbox is also very nice. We've got the 7-speed DCT in this M2 Competition. You also get it with a 6-speed manual, but the 7-speed is fantastic also. It's lightning fast and smoother than you want it to be too. The suspension in the M2 Competition is not adaptive. It is passive. What do I mean by that? An adaptive suspension, when you put it in different modes, it changes its character. It gets softer in Comfort, it gets harder in Sport Plus. Now with the passive dampers, they're pretty much the same all the time. which is a good thing in the small M2 because I feel you can learn the car better because it's the same always. It's not if you're in a different mode, the car's going to react differently. It is a good package overall, if you ask me. And the suspension is set up very well for this car. Because it's a little bit firmer, obviously, it's an M car, it has to be firmer. It's just very good for a daily basis, I think. It's firm, but it's not too firm. It's very comfortable, I'd say, for a sporty, small M car at the end of the day. I personally think that the M2 Competition is going to go down in the history books as one of the great normal production M cars. People say that the normal M2 might not, because they argued that it was an M car but not a fully developed M specific engine. I don't know if I agree with that though, because to be honest, look at the 1M with the N54 engine. That is a real icon. But I don't know, we'll have to wait and see with that one. But hats off to BMW with the comp. It's a real small dynamite, this thing. And I hope the replacement does it justice.